Hello, everyone. Welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Sanjay Sehgal, who is the chairman and CEO of MSys Technologies, which provides product engineering services and digital transformation solutions to enterprises. Hi, Mr. Sanjay. Welcome to ELI.
Thanks for having me, Priya Ranjan. Nice to be able to share things that you were going to ask me today with everyone. Thank you.
To start with, I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Hi, my name is Sanjay Sehgal. I am CEO of a company called MSys Technologies. We are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, with offices in California and 4 locations in India, and we Chennai, Bangalore, Pune, Calcutta, and we also have an operation in Australia and Vietnam now.
Mhm.
And we are about a few thousand employees all over the world. And we are in the business of product engineering services. And this is the fourth venture that I'm running. And this is more of a, you can say, my semi-retirement plan
Mhm.
that I don't have external investors and all that. And I take it lightly as we move along. But it has been growing well.
Mhm.
And I'm thankful to all the employees and my management team for that.
Got you. If this is the fourth venture, tell us about the other three ventures that you have built.
Sure. So, the first venture, I mean, going back to that story of it was, I have a close to a 3 decade experience, 30 years of experience in professional life. And that tells you my age. And uh, so the first 10 years I worked for someone.
Mm-hmm.
Next 10 years I did next 10 years I did multiple startups, one after the other, 10, 12, give or take a couple of years, 10, 12 years. I did startups which were always funded by, other investors. And
Mm-hmm.
the last 10 years is when I kind of have been running MSys, which is purely funded by me. So I have all three experiences. I mean, working for someone, being a CEO of a venture funded company, and now running your own business. I mean, this is a business entirely owned by me. So
Mm-hmm.
these are three different kind of. So, working for someone, and that transition that I made from working for someone for about 10 years, and in the process I moved to US and I worked there for 9 years or so. And then, I mean, there was a time and, my green card and all that was approved. I felt I should do something on my own rather than working for someone else. And that's kind of, it was, in my case, I was already an executive, a senior executive, making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge was that I knew the moment I start a company, this paycheck will stop coming. You know,
Correct.
I was VP of sales and marketing of a very successful company, which we had made very successful through our efforts.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, the thing was that I have been doing this for somebody else. Now let me do this for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That temptation was there. On the other hand, the fear, man. I mean, now this $500,000 paycheck that I get every year, that will stop coming,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and of course I had family, and I was married and I had a son. At that time he was 4 or 5 years old. So it was hard decision, but I think I nevertheless I took, and I'm glad I took.
Okay.
Had I not taken that decision, I mean, it's say, so one of the things that I think there are one category of entrepreneurs these days, the best time to start
Yeah.
is actually when you're in college, right out of college.
Correct.
You should get that. Is it was not like that in our times. I mean, there were not many opportunities, and there are very few companies, no funding, and nobody knew anything about
Hmm.
starting a company. This is, I'm talking, initial era of internet. I mean, just email was there at that time.
Hmm. Curious to know what led to that transition. Usually, what happens, entrepreneurs need a trigger to jump from regular life to entrepreneur life. So, if you can tell us what happened, what exactly happened that made you to choose entrepreneurship and get on this uncertain path?
See, for me, the trigger was that there were two triggers for me at that time in 2000. It was the year 2000. One trigger was that I was going to get a green card. Those who know in US, you come here on some visa and then you eventually get a work visa, work permit visa, H1 that is called. And then, when you're an H1, you are obligated to work for the company which has sponsored your H1, right?
Hmm.
So till you have green card, you don't have freedom to move around. So I had gotten my green card in 2000. So I had the freedom to move around. And the second trigger was that I felt that I had created a very I was an engineer. I joined the company as an engineer, became engineering manager, and then eventually I ended up, heading sales and marketing for that company, and we grew that company from $30 million to $180 million revenue. So
Hmm.
we created some great success as a team. So I felt that had I done this for myself, right,
Hmm.
myself or a company that I have some part of, a major part of, it would it would be much better. So I wanted to create or repeat that success before I get too old, for myself.
Hmm.
That was the motivation I had. That's, it was not about making money for myself. It was, I was making, as I said, I was making money already, good money,
Hmm.
but it was more like, I wanted to do this again. Some people are built for running startups, some people are built for running established company. We were already had become a $200 million company at that time.
Hmm.
So now I wanted to do something startup new, something new, again take it from zero to some value, jointly with
Hmm.
my team, right?
Got you. So once you decided that yes, entrepreneurship is something I want to do, then what was the next few things that you did? How did you uh, ideate about your first venture? What industry to get into? What product or what service? Uh, and what market? What team? How did you decide on these things? How did you find the initial few people? Because the first time it's the most difficult.
The first time it is the most difficult. And in that era also, in that era when I keep saying 2000, that is, imagine 23 years ago, right?
Mm.
It was year 2000, and close to the end of year 2000. Uh, and it was, the internet had just, the dot-com boom. We were in the middle of dot-com boom, which
Correct.
was going bust,
Yeah.
meaning which was going downhill at that time, end of 2000.
Yeah.
The times were also difficult. See, first of all, there were not much, not much help available
Mm.
in those days in terms of mentorship and all, right? And the second was that I think in that era, internet, though it was there, it was not today. You can get any information that you want. We are looking at now the initial stages of AI as well. You can get a lot of information
Mm.
and online, but those days it was still less. So for me, I think since I had the work experience, and along with me, I had a co-founder who was VP of engineering with me in the same company.
Mm.
So I would always say, for those who are aspiring to become entrepreneurs, it's always good to have a co-founder,
Mm-hmm.
because
But
in the initial stages, you may not have all the skill to be able to do what you want to do. So if you have someone else with you, like he was VP of engineering, I was VP of sales and marketing. So two major skills that you need to run a company are already there in the founders, right?
mm-hmm.
And right, so that's very essential for us. So that's kind of, we knew the team is good. We have two people who know things well. And then I think that we wanted to solve a problem which, in a way, continuation of what we had been doing in our previous company. In our previous company, we were in data storage. We were we had done a data storage product which allowed you to store your data in a very what should I say, secure and protected manner.
Yeah.
And we had seen that to be a problem, a larger problem outside to in the internet era. We were selling it to certain set of segments. We didn't want to compete with the company that we were working with. That's not ethical. So we
Mhm.
wanted to solve a bigger problem. I mean, we knew there is a larger problem out there which nobody has solved. So we focused our energies on that problem for the internet era. We knew the internet is going to be going through this boom, right? And it's already kind of, even though the dot-com companies have busted, but internet itself is here to stay. So, and faster speeds are coming and all this is happening. So we wanted to create a new kind of storage device which will allow you to store your data intelligently.
Mhm.
That such a thing never existed, as an example. Now, I mean, we came from that background. Now today's people, most of the people are doing companies, more in the spaces of consumer, I mean, B2C.
Mhm.
We came from B2B market, and we focused on B2B market because that's where our expertise was in. So one lesson I would say we learned was that, okay, it's stay true to the expertise you have. If you have some work experience, if you explore newer areas, and you may not succeed in that, right? Because you don't have expertise in it. So we stayed true to the expertise we had and tried to solve a bigger problem in that area. And we found a bigger problem to be solved, and then we created a product idea in solving that problem, which was completely unique and different, and it was large enough. One problem I find in entrepreneurs, a lot of people pitch their product ideas to me, Ranjan, and but I find that most of those ideas are half baked and they're not scalable.
Mhm.
I think one thing which people lack is there is a, like, as you know, I'm very active on social media, and I have even talked about this. There is a dhanda and there is a startup business. I mean, if you're doing a really a startup company, startup business, you need to think about how are you going to scale,
Mhm.
and how are you going to scale, and how uh, how defensible your value proposition is. And because if it's something very easy, 10 different companies will do it,
Mhm.
right? And before you know it, you'll have so much competition, you can't succeed. So it has to be defensible. It should be, your solution should be so hard that nobody else is able to come up with it easily,
Mhm.
right? So that's kind of those are the some of the things which we had learned through ourselves. Meaning, going through the journey, that the market has to be large, value proposition has to be defensible, and it should be achievable also. I mean, it shouldn't be such a big thing that you're building a new tank that you don't have money for. Nobody will give you money to build a tank, right? I mean, a war tank, or a battle tank, right?
Mhm.
So we were solving. We came up with a chip. We wanted to come up with a chip which will go into a new category of products called storage routers or storage switches, and that's kind of it was a journey. When now I look back, and it was hardly perhaps 6 months that we went through it, but during those times it seemed very long 6 months. It was like, like a nuclear winter.
So, curious to know one more thing. So, you have worked in India, you have worked in US, and now you have the venture which runs in both those markets. So curious to understand, how does entrepreneurship, how is entrepreneurship different in India versus US? What are the differences? I understand that in the US you are welcome to make mistakes, and uh, they kind of accept mistakes as a culture, versus India. In India, you don't you are not expected to make many mistakes, and Indian entrepreneurs come out of jugaad uh, mindset, or jugaad culture, if you will. So what would you say is the difference between entrepreneurship in US and entrepreneurship in India?
See, there are many differences. I think one reason why, one difference, which is in US, entrepreneurship is a bit harder. I would tell you this. People think it's easier. It's not, because a lot is at stake for you. I mean, like I told you, when I started, I was making $500,000. In those days, $500,000 was a very big salary.
Hmm.
Now these days, it is still a lot of people are making $500,000 a year if you work for Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, and all. A principal engineer is making that much salary. Those days, I mean, imagine those kind of guys are making $200,000, $2 lakh or $200,000 as salary. And I was VP of Sales and Marketing in my company, very successful at that. So I had $500,000. So I had to create a mindset in me that I would be losing that money,
Hmm.
right? And I mean, I'll not be able to make that money now if I start this company. So that was a major thing for me to kind of in my mindset, creating that mindset, right?
Hmm.
And and I think the second I would say is that in if especially if you're established or even if you're a college student in US, still there is a lot more, not only the lot more you can lose, or it requires you minimum certain amount of money to maintain a lifestyle. I mean, you need to have an apartment, you
Hmm.
need to have a car, you need to have food to eat. In India, typically, I mean, majority of the people, they live with their families, and or the basic living expenses are low, right?
Hmm.
As compared to places like US. So you are able to manage these things a lot easier, right? I mean, you when you leave a college, I mean, your monthly expenses are maybe 1,000 rupees or 2,000 rupees a month.
Hmm.
Whereas in US, it may be, let's say, $2,000, which is a lot of money.
Correct.
$2,000 is almost like 1.6 lakhs, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so it's a big difference, and in being able to do a startup in US versus in India. Now, other things that you brought up, I mean, that those are important. And in US, yes, the mistakes can be. I mean, people allow you to make mistakes, and even investors allow you to pivot. Investors allow you to move through the market to figure out the right proposition, provided you are thoughtful about it. You know,
Hmm.
and in India, typically, as I said, many of the startup ideas I people send me, they're half baked. They don't. People just want to jump to that. Oh, I want to start a company. I want to start. I just I shared an idea, Ranjan, in one of my videos, that I said it's $1 billion idea if somebody can come up with a solution. To me, entrepreneurship is about finding solutions, solving a problem. Entrepreneurship is not about starting a company. Huh? People think it's starting a company. Company is a result of that. First, you have to solve a problem. So I
Hmm.
presented a problem to people in my video, and I was walking down the street in near my brother's house in Bangalore, and you see all these nice villas. There are nice villas there,
Hmm.
but in the balcony of villas, you see the clothes hanging, multicolored clothes hanging, including underwears.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, there's some. I mean, that's how people make them dry, right? I mean, there are no dryers. I mean, dryers haven't caught on in India, right?
Correct.
The cloth dryers, right?
Yeah.
Unlike US, we all use dryers. I mean, there you hang your clothes, right? I said this is $1 billion idea. That if somebody can solve this problem, I mean, you're such a nice villa community and looks so ugly because everybody has their underwears hanging,
Hmm.
multicolored underwears, right? I mean, if you can solve this problem so that you don't have to hang, right? That as soon as they come out of washer, you just spray something, whatever. I don't want to give this. You come up with a solution, right? And
Okay.
which doesn't require, it does not require a hanger. It doesn't require you to hang. Doesn't require you to use an electrical dryer, right? Because people don't want to use for some reason. So something else. I mean, obviously, it has to be beyond what exists in the market. I got a bunch of people send me ideas and all, and every single thing was half baked, you know.
Hmm.
And I gave them feedback. I said, go back, come up with this, build a prototype. I mean, see whether what you're talking about is workable, and it's so and whether it's scalable, right? And I mean, so I think you're right. People do jump into, oh, I want to start a company. There is a whole thing of, starting a company. There's a new fad now, and it shouldn't be. I think it's you should take your time to start a company. And I always, my mantra is like the 5 steps you should follow in coming out with your value proposition or your pitch deck or your idea. I mean, your idea is baked if you can answer these 5 questions. What you're doing, you should be able to describe that in 2 lines as well as in 200 lines, right? I mean, if somebody wants a detailed explanation, you should be able to give. Somebody, wants an elevator pitch, you have 30 seconds or 10 seconds in an elevator with him. You should be able to describe what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And that's you need to perfect that before you go to approach someone for funding, right?
Correct.
What you're doing. And then next very, very important question is why you're doing this. And why would explain the problem you're solving.
Got you.
Right? I mean, you have this because without that problem solving, you're not an entrepreneur and you shouldn't be in what you're doing. Why is very, very important. It should start with why am I doing what you're doing, and you describe why you're doing it. And then, of course, comes how you are doing it, meaning how you're going to put it together, the company, right? Scaling, all these things, right?
Got you.
How are you going to make it a company? How are you going to make it a $1 billion company? And then last 2 are why now and why you. Why now is important because somebody may say, well, this problem existed, like I'm talking about the clothes hanging thing. I mean, it's not a new problem. It has existed for ages. It has existed, right?
Correct.
This problem of clothes hanging. But why now are we focusing on it, right? We should be able to explain why now and why you, because that will tell the investor why are you uniquely positioned to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Meaning you are a chemical engineer, so you have come up with a great chemical, that a chemical compound which will make the clothes dry without destroying the fabric, as an example, right? You have come up with a great chemical compound which will make, and you, because you're a chemical engineer, so you are trained here, that's your thesis was in that, or you have a co-founder whose thesis was in that, and you've done a lot of experiments and you have come up with this new chemical compound, or you are an electrical engineer who designed motors and you have come up with a special motor which will take very little electricity to dry your clothes, right? And it'll dry it in quick second without using the warm air. I mean, one of the reasons people don't like the cloth dryer is because warm air damages the clothes.
Correct.
The hot air that it damages the clothes, right? And it takes obviously electricity too, whereas sun is free. And you can run a fan using solar, right? Solar energy, and so you're not taking. I mean, so why you? Meaning, I'm an electrical engineer. I know solar. I know chemical. I know. So I think these 5 questions, if people can answer before present and perfect this answers to these before presenting your idea to anybody, and again I'll repeat, what you're doing, why you're doing this, and how you're doing it, how you're going to scale it, how you're going to build this into a big company. Why now, why you? If you can answer these questions. So I think when I go back to my earlier times, so I didn't know all these things. I mean, I'm saying from my experience, but I think it took us 6 to 9 months to perfect our idea to be when we started with kind of an idea of doing a storage box, then it became a chip. We thought a chip is a good way to bring this product to a market, a semiconductor, but semiconductor devices require of funding, a lot of funding to build. And so we raised about $11 million was our first round in those days, which now will translate to perhaps $50 million. And in those days, $11 million we raised. but we also raised, by the time we closed the funding, it was already 2001, and
Hmm.
it was 31st of August 2001, 11 days before 9/11. Many of your listeners or viewers may not have been born even at that time, and it was,
Yeah.
I mean, the US was hit by terrorists,
Correct.
the planes, right? So 9/11. So imagine we are all kind of, market was going down. We raised money. We had a happy moment, and then boom, the market went down, nose dived,
Hmm.
right? And so we stayed on with the company, and you know started going slow, because whatever market was left, it took a while to come back. So I think finally it did come back, and we managed to build the product and sell the company to another larger player. So it was a good run, but resilience and perseverance is a quality that every entrepreneur needs to have, because things will go wrong, markets will go through up and down. I mean,
Hmm.
when you see even in Indian startup environment, you see companies like Paytm and all. I mean, they have gone through, right, uh,
Yeah.
major, you know
Yeah.
major changes, and now they're, I mean, right now they're in a bad phase, right?
Correct.
And which is fine, I think, and that's not end of the road, right?
Hmm.
And if these things will happen, and you will come back. I mean, you have to stay stay true to what you believe in and what you want to do, right?
Yeah. Well, on this note, I think we are up with the time, and I'd like to say that it was a very interesting session, Mr. Sanjoy. It was our pleasure to have you on our platform, and our best wishes for MSys and all the ventures that you will be building in the future.
Thank you. Thanks, Ranjan. I know I took your entire 30 minutes in answering one question, but I hope I answered many other that people
Yeah,
may have
all
had
all
in
questions
their
were
mind.
answered in one answer.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm happy. I'm very happy. Great, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjoy.
Thank you. Thank you.